right, you're live.
Thank you. Welcome to the April 10th, 2025 meeting of the Fair Access Committee. We have Link, me, Sarah, Nancy, and Ed here tonight, so we have a quorum. We also have some guest speakers, and we're anxious to hear from them. But first, we'll adopt the March minutes, if somebody would make a motion.
She said so.
First,
So moved.
okay, is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Good. All right. So I don't know how you want to go. If you want to go first, Abby or Linda, it doesn't matter to me. So
Where's the start?
okay. So Abby Klaus Radigan's going to come and speak. She's with the Libraries Commission, and we wanted her to come by and give us an update on what's going on with that. So thank you.
Hi, good evening,
Hi.
everybody. Thanks for having me here. So I'll do a couple things. I sit on the Board of Directors for the Montgomery County Public Library, and I'll give you, in my professional background as a librarian, so I'm the head librarian at an independent school, but I applied for this particular position with the county just because the mission of public libraries is near and dear to my heart. So I'll give you a little bit of an overview of what the Montgomery County Library Board does and how it functions and my role in it, and then maybe we can think about how that might overlap with fair access concerns or interests. So in terms of how the board operates, the work of the board is essentially to assist and advise the county executive and the MCPL director, the library director, on matters having to do with the organization and the management of all the libraries in the county. So we serve, and this is a quote from our manual, we serve as the voice of the community on library issues in the county and as an advocacy group for public libraries at both the local, state, and national levels.
Abby, just one question. In terms of your membership, is it a mix of professionals and citizens?
It is.
Okay.
So the board consists of 14 people. 12 of them are apply to sit on the board, and so we get a wide range of people from across the county who have an interest, and there's an interview process. And then there are two other seats on the board. One is from Montgomery Community College, their head librarian, and then the Montgomery County Public Schools, the head librarian that oversees their library system.
Okay.
Also sits in the library. So it gets fairly good representation from the county. And that's one of the reasons why I applied, because I thought it was important for Poolesville to have representation in the public library system. So, let's see. So we have the 12 voting board members, the MCPS rep and the Montgomery College rep aren't voting. And the board members play a couple of roles as members. We do a couple things. So there are internal work groups in the board. There is the legislative and public affairs work group. There's the library policy and practice work group. And then there's the library advisory committee activities, which I'll talk about in a second also. So those are the work groups. I sit on the I sit on the library policy and practice work group.
Okay.
And then we also have liaison duties, and we each liaise with two different branches. So I liaise with Maggie Nightingale and Quince Orchard. And the idea of that is to create more community representation, essentially. So they have library advisory committees in each branch, and they're composed of people who have volunteered, people who know about it, they're library lovers, they're members of their branch, and so it's just a group of volunteers. And the idea is they come together and they have a beat on what's happening at their branch and what the needs are. And I attend their meetings, and they tell me what their needs are and what's going on, and I report that to the board. But then I also bring what's happening on the board back to them. So it's kind of a communication loop that's happening.
How many people are on those committees, those volunteer committees? at the
It
library?
depends.
Okay, so just different per library?
Yeah. So like Maggie Nightingale has about 6 people, and Quince Orchard has maybe 5 people. Some of them are struggling, I hear, like.
Oh, I was like, so I would expect Queen's Orchard to be larger than the Poolesville one, so it's not based on like
well,
proportionate population.
on paper, it's larger, but the meetings I've been to seem to,
Those who actually show up. right?
yeah, seems to be
Got
about
it.
the same.
That happens.
Okay, okay.
So a lot of the work I see on the board is just this big kind of information loop between the community, the library board, the director, the county executive, and then, our work groups, we basically advise on whatever issues are pertinent to our specific work group, and we bring it to the board. They vote on it, we vote on it in discussion with the director. So that's like a a really kind of like quick and dirty overview of how the board works. And I guess the next thing is to consider like what your issues are. Nancy, I know you are the one who approached me thinking that maybe there would be overlap between fair access interests and our local library interests, which makes sense to me because libraries are all about community access and serving the needs of our community members. So I'm interested to hear what you guys were thinking about in terms of the library. And then I'm happy to share with what ways that I think maybe things could be coordinated. But my initial thought is that the entry point would probably be the library advisory committees at Maggie Nightingale.
Is there a chair of that committee or not?
There is, yeah, and I can pass her information along. And so we had a board meeting last night and I kind of floated the idea, because I've been mulling it over and I'm like, this is the access point in my mind, is the library advisory committee, but I was curious to hear if other members who've been serving a lot longer than me had more insight, and nobody really, like some people were like, well, there could be like shared events. But I'm not exactly sure what that would look like. And I suggested library advisory committees, and they agreed, but they're kind of like, well, but we don't really want to have like an official rep liaison to other community groups. I don't know if they feel like that gets too like complicated, having liaisons from all like interest groups around a community. But there's nothing to stop people who are interested, if it's a fair access, like active member who wants to be a part of the committee, or they could just be in
Or
conversation.
just come and, can the public come and attend these at all and ask questions or bring concerns to the committee?
I don't know. I don't see why not, really. I mean, or they could be in conversation with me or the chair.
Okay.
And they meet monthly or more often than that?
We meet quarterly.
Oh, quarterly?
Yeah.
All right.
Just out of curiosity, what are some of the issues or concerns or ideas that come up in discussion?
Or recommendations you've made. Have you made any recommendations to the county executive recently?
Well, the current recommendations are all around budget right now.
Yeah, well, that makes sense.
Season, and there's some anxiety with the county shortfall and what that's going to mean for the public library system. So
Yeah,
that's where all the energy has been focused.
okay.
Is it in terms of staffing, hours of operation, or resources?
What the budget's looking like?
Right.
The budget will be cut, and I think it's looking, well, what's been proposed and advocated for. So it's like the best case scenario is there will be cuts. I think it's like a 20% cut in programming and some supplies, and then there were 2 positions that will be eliminated. They're not currently filled though, so it's not like somebody's
Okay.
going to be fired. They're just going to
Just
stop
won't fill them.
actively looking to fill them.
Okay.
Yeah.
What are some of the challenges that the local library here or in the libraries around the county, what kind of challenges do they run into? And because when I think about fair access, I think about just our advocacy and being able to help things move in the right direction.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering what type of challenges.
I think libraries are well situated in terms of advocacy because they've always, I mean,
Right.
the system is set up so that there's like representation already within different branches and the parts are in place. I think some of the challenges, like there was an issue this year about the world language collection in some of the libraries, and there was a collections decision to remove some of them because they were dated and they were not being used. And you just, shelf spaces, you have to kind of like keep the new stuff coming in, and you have to represent your community so that everybody has what they need. But there were folks who, my understanding is that they went to a county council meeting and said, what's happening? We have world language collections being removed without the community being asked. And so then this whole thing kind of snowballed. But one of the things in the budget is that because the demographics of the communities have changed, they need to change what those world language collections look like, and they need to be updated. So there will be money allocated, hopefully, in this upcoming budget to work on our world language collection. So those are some of the things that come up. Everything from like, well, it looks like the gardens in Quince Orchard aren't being tended around the library, or like the parking lights are like flickering and not working, to, how do we get more books on the Lucky Day shelf, like all, all kinds of.
Lucky Day shelf.
Yeah.
It's my favorite.
Everybody loves Lucky Day shelf.
I get so lucky.
But on that point, Abby,
Yeah.
our primary charge is to make sure that our area is treated equitably compared to the rest of the county. So when you were speaking, I thought of three things. One is programming. Do we have the same variety of programming other libraries have? Second is what you talked about. I mean, I'm sure we can't have the same number of books that other libraries do because we're smaller, but I mean,
Definitely don't.
is the variety and the kinds of opportunities that a kid could have going here, on par, even though maybe the number of books isn't. And then the other thing, I think I mentioned to you, I met the, I think she had to cycle out to another part of the library system, but I think forgotten her name now, but I met her on Poolesville. Myra, was that her name? The former librarian at Poolesville? I think it was,
Myra,
yeah.
was in charge of programming.
Right.
Over at Maggie, and she had to like take over for someone else who's out
Right.
on leave, and so she was transferred to a different.
She was telling me, and one of the things she was saying that she's concerned about was the fact that there are a lot more computer kiosks and other places so students can come over after school. Now, if we get the community center sooner rather than later, the community center will have some of that in it too, so it may not be a big
Planned to be
issue.
in it? I didn't know.
Yeah, but it could be an addition. But she said that was a concern to her. So anyway, I just thought I'd put those three on the table. That's when I think of
So as you said,
equity.
programming.
So in other words, I know they have some kids programming because my grandchild goes to it every once in a while. I don't really follow it that closely, but do we have the variety of programming, in other words?
I mean, part of it is community driven. So
Okay.
like our people, what are people asking for? So I think the bulk of the programming at Maggie Nightingale is geared towards young families.
Kids, yeah. Right,
So
okay.
I have a really specific example of
Okay.
that. We've been working on getting Drag Story Hour to our library, and I was told twice that our library is too small to have one. But we have regular Story Hour, and we have other, they were saying that it was too small in that back room to accommodate it, but whenever a program is too small to fit in that back room, they take up the main part of the library. So like, they'll have science ones over there, or like they had one where they had reptiles, and they were out in that main space. So I'm not sure how, I understand, like, there is always concerns about, like, safety, and if you have too many people, but that has been discouraging, to be told that our library, which is small for our small community, is too small for that. So,
Do they have those at other libraries? Have they had them in other libraries?
Yeah.
Okay.
all over the county.
So that sounds like it might be an equity issue. Potentially.
I don't know.
Unless it's a fire safety issue maybe or something.
Our biggest concern, we can find outdoor spaces for something like that during the nice weather, but when we get into winter weather, Poolesville has very few indoor spaces that would be appropriate for that. And again, it's a literacy-driven program, so it'd be real nice to have it at the library where kids could then check out books, maybe even that the story reader read or talked about, or they could have a display of books. So that's one concern I have. And then the other one is, I know that there's a big Supreme Court case up on, in and there's a rally around inclusive education and inclusive representative books on the 21st or 22nd of April.
Okay.
And so I guess my question is has that been talked about as librarians? I know it's an issue that's very important to you personally, but is that something that, as a board, you've all been
Yeah.
talking about? And
Absolutely. And they were active in is it the Maryland state law about it's illegal to ban books. And that is like part of like the advocacy that libraries have come together in Maryland and worked around. So, yes,
Awesome.
absolutely.
And is that something that with MCPS representative on the board, I'm assuming the school libraries are also,
Well, that's a different can of worms.
okay,
Yeah, this is for the public library. So I can't speak to how
yeah,
public school libraries operate, except like my experience is in independent schools. So, but the equity issue, I mean, part of it is that in terms of programming and space and computer kiosks,
Yeah.
it's also just size. Like we have by far the smallest footprint in the county. And I always thought, wouldn't it be nice if they could like
there's an
bump
empty,
into-
I was gonna say there's
well, that's
empty spaces next to them.
Yeah.
Is there any reason they can't expand it?
Well, I mean, we just had our
Money.
not that long ago. And
Yeah, we
they're
did.
in the process of going through the entire county and doing refreshes or renovations, depending on what's
Yeah.
needed in each location. So the fact that there was just a refresh here makes me think that that would be down the line. But in the perfect world, yeah, like you could bump into that space and then you'd have more space for more programming, more space for computer kiosks, more space for collections. One of the other big issues is the access to digital collections. And, why am I not remembering what it's called right now? Welcome to my brain. Not Libby, which is Hoopla.
Yeah,
So
Hoopla.
much, yes. So Hoopla until recently had like unlimited checkouts that you could use, and people use Hoopla for books and for movies and all kinds of digital content.
Only ever used Libby. I didn't even know there was.
I know, it was new to me too. And, but apparently because of like the publishers and just the cost has skyrocketed and users in the county of Hoopla have skyrocketed, they've had to limit checkouts to like five simultaneous checkouts per person.
And that feels reasonable.
I know, but
Feels
then, like,
reasonable.
some people like really pack it in there, and it's like a hard adjustment for people. But it's really hard because like these resources are getting much more expensive, and publishers are cranking up the costs of like periodicals and things. So like access is shrinking to some of these. So there's like a fine balance trying to figure out how to maintain access.
So when you say
It's both
digital,
expanding and shrinking though, right? I mean, because I feel like we've probably never had more resources and information available at our public libraries at any time than now.
all right, when you say digital, that's not online, you're talking about like CDs and DVDs
No,
and that
it's
kind of?
online.
Online,
Like
okay.
digital
Like this.
books
Yeah.
or-
Books you can download from your phone.
This, you have I have the Hoopla app,
No.
and you could get books, and, yeah.
Yeah, and then there's Canopy where you can stream movie. I mean, well, I guess you can do movies on Hoopla as well. Is that right? I've never used Hoopla.
Tried to do that.
Hoopla's nice. Libby and Hoopla,
Yeah.
yeah.
So, I
All
mean,
these fun
in terms of thinking about the fair access issues, I mean, it sounds to me like space is one of the biggest barriers to bringing more
computers,
space for, right, I mean, the computers are it's a one-time expense, right, and programming, I mean,
But
this.
if we don't have a space, they
Right, the
won't
space
add
is
more
what keeps
kiosks.
all those things from happening, right? So, I mean, I get the idea that there's just this refresh of the library, and so we're probably not at the top of the list now. But I wonder if this is a fair access issue, right? Like, yes, we just got the refresh, but this is a question. I don't know if this is accurate, what I'm saying. Did everybody else get their refresh a while ago and have way more space? And so we could say, like, look, we know we just got a refresh, but does that really mean that we have to continue to be behind everybody else?
Maybe we need some research on what is like, it was helpful, it was powerful when the principal Carruthers went around and measured all the other schools' gyms and was able to say,
We
this
did
is
that.
what we have, right?
We did that.
Yes.
Yeah,
So-
it was powerful.
So I think it could
Yeah.
be also likewise powerful for us to get more information
Yeah.
on what do other residents in the county have access to? Because honestly, sometimes we don't even know, right? Like, I didn't even realize when my kids are younger that other other residents have like county summer sports programming, because we didn't have any here in Poolesville, like sports run by the county. So
Yeah.
sometimes we just don't know what we're missing.
So what
just
we
wanna-
did, just something, Niles?
Yeah, I was just going to say, just as a note, this came up during the comprehensive plan
Yeah.
thing, and I think it's still in the comp plan. I'll have to check it again. But basically, the national standard is 1 square foot per person in the service area, basically, or
For
in the-
libraries, that's what the standard is?
for libraries is.
Oh.
So Maggie Nightingale is around 6,000 square feet.
Okay, so
Oh.
that is.
And so it's
It's
about
because
in
of
line
the
with
national
the town.
Okay.
But
It
what I don't
also
know.
serves the broader community, Niles, right? Which is
Ex-
14,000 people.
Yeah, right.
Right, exactly. So that is the when we talk about fair access in the greater
West
area, that is just something to consider, because I don't know what the county considers the service area for that library.
Yeah.
So that could be
I'm
the
sure it
approach. But
includes Dickerson and Barnesville.
It's got to,
you know,
yeah.
all the
Right,
surrounding
exactly.
areas.
Yeah. So it's
that-
actually about half what it should be because the population's around 13,000 in the western county. So,
right. So that was just a standard that we found. So that might be something worth following up on. That's just what I wanted to say.
But that also, Niles doesn't talk at all to the fact about what kind of resources they have in the library. Square footage is one thing, but square footage and having half the, books, for example, another library has per capita would be wrong. So I don't know
Right.
whether we can measure that or not. What we did, Abby, just to give you a sense, is when we fought for the school initial design for included a new gym, not a new gym, a remodernized gym, but they weren't going to expand it. And we knew the gym was too small. You remember, I think, when the girls were making the run to the state, we actually had to parents had to be turned away because there was just not enough room in the gym for the parents. So we made a push, and they would not give us the information about what the square footage was of the gym. I know MCPS doesn't want to encourage people to come in and say, well, my gym's this big. And so what we did is we went on a website that where you can actually rent space from the county.
Yeah.
And they have pictures of the gym. And they have this metric where they say, if you take the bleachers and put them back, here's how many chairs, folding chairs, can fit in the gym. Ours was 333. The next biggest was 560. So it was half the size of Magruder's gym. So we used that as we put the bar chart together, and it was kind of hard to say, no, you guys are being treated equally. Something like that for the libraries could be interesting. So I don't know if there's anything else beyond just square footage, but
I think it's a good place to start, and then I think just an assessment of like what types of programming and resources.
right.
I think it's a good place to start. Maybe I would imagine that websites likely have numbers on them about their print collections, like books that they have. Digital collections should be like equal across
Right.
all of the county. But yeah, like maybe
Like
getting.
numbers of computers might be available on websites.
Yeah, I don't know if that will be available, but I would think that there would be collection numbers. The thing about square footage, is that they're not all, they don't all use the spaces the same way. Like, they
Right.
have different community functions. Like, there's been a trend where some libraries might actually have a cafe, or they,
Wow. Can you imagine?
or they might have like, there was talk before kind of the tenor of things have changed in the last few months, and like kind of the access to resources appears to have changed, but there was talk at some point, especially with the new director at the library, of working with Health and Human Services, and because, librarians are under a lot of pressure in public libraries. They have to serve communities in ways that they weren't trained for, that go beyond kind of, information literacy in terms of like helping folks who are unhoused or helping, like dealing with kind of like more social work
Bless you.
questions. So there was talk about some libraries maybe partnering with Health and Human Services and having, like trained social workers on site or things like that, like ways that it's like not just having a cafe, but ways that you can partner with the community, have more people come in, serve more people in various ways. Like I think of Rockville. And Rockville, have you guys been in the?
Yeah, I've been in there.
Rockville?
It's
I mean,
huge.
that's
big.
Enormous.
Two-story.
From the outside, it looks huge.
And
They
then
have
there's
different
some-
services inside of there as well.
There are different services inside. So like some of the buildings are multifunctional, and I think that it's intentionally multifunctional,
Yeah.
the way they are able to serve communities. So that's also something to think about. If you want to campaign for having more space, if you can make an argument for
Needs
well, we
assessment,
can have
kind of.
more space, but we also can serve our community and bring additional people in, like potential library users that don't understand themselves as library users yet, then
Right.
that's like a good argument to be.
So,
And well-
there has to be at least something we're missing out on, in order to it to be an equity issue. So if we're missing out on programming that other people are taking advantage of and our folks can't because the library doesn't have it, that could be one. Another one, though, which we found with Jim, is the per capita usage. In other words, do we have a heavy flow of people here compared to, and my guess is maybe not. So one of the arguments you're going to get back is that, oh yeah, you only got this many square feet, but you only have 10 people per day coming in, and all these other libraries have much bigger.
Is that,
But
and that could
also-
be because there's nothing there.
Yeah.
Well, that's
exactly.
true.
You-
It could
if you
be-
don't-
could be
if
either
you
one.
don't have
Well, I can say
programming
this
or
much.
the other
That's true.
resources there.
Libraries are very good at managing, at tracking user statistics for all of their resources, so the numbers should be there.
Because I would be curious just how often the library resources are not being utilized.
Yeah.
All right, and I think about sometimes years ago, you might have kids who would go to the library before they had a lot of digital access to things, and you needed to go look up books and you had to do homework that required some kind of research. Where there was a time where a lot of folks you can only find it at the library, and so now it's a matter of, well, can I go find this on Hulu? Can I go find this on Google? All right, and so you look at how do you, it's twofold. I think on one hand, being able to let the community know, hey, these are the things that the library can do that you might not be able to do at home. And then being able to say, hey, we have this demand because there's a high demand for these resources. We need more, right? It's almost,
That's what libraries are always working to do, is figuring out what the needs are. And you say, well, everybody has, can access Google, and so they don't need libraries, but really there's an incredible digital divide. That libraries really work very hard to create access to digital information that people might not otherwise have access to.
right.
And just because it's on Google doesn't,
So here's where I'm going with it, and I'm just thinking, I've worked in the school system almost 30 years, and just watching young people, and then sometimes young people think they might know a little bit more than what they actually know, all right? And so if there's a way, when I think about fair access, or even just as a town, it's being able to let families know these are resources. Like the kid who's working on a particular research project is after school hours, that going to the library is probably one of the best things that they can do, because you have folks who are really trained in how to get information, and being able to make sure community members know, hey, here's a resource that you could tap into, all right? And so, being able to, how do we work together to share the benefits of the library and move away from maybe some of those traditional stereotypes that folks who would really benefit from being patrons of the library realize that, oh, wait a minute, I can get help with this or that, or I could go in here and do, like my wife goes to the library all the time. When she retires, she'll probably volunteer for the library.
the thing about libraries, I think like the old stereotype of libraries being the places where you go for books really changed dramatically in the last, I don't know how many decades. But people go there for job resources. Especially now, the library is like tailoring its resources to help all the federal workers who are looking for jobs. Libraries are hubs for people who are learning second languages, so language acquisition. Libraries are hubs for, people go there for their taxes, they go there for all kinds of resources. And I mean, that's a great fair access, thing when you think about the taxes, serving people
Yeah.
like, certain economic brackets or certain age groups have access to, somebody.
helps.
So, it seems to me that this kind of maps onto the community college, community center advocacy that we're doing, right? Trying to bring that
Yeah.
to the area more quickly. And they've allocated the money for building, but it's, I don't know, 5 years out or something like that, right?
Right.
This is not
Could we
imminent.
get some money for like the programming? part of
So,
it?
right, and the building already stands right next to the library. I mean, I don't know what rents are here. I can't imagine this is anywhere close to what we've been asking for building new buildings and things like that, right? So, I wonder if part of the argument can be, we've been trying to get you to move up the date for the community center. That's not feasible right now. It doesn't look like that's happening imminently. But maybe we could bring some of these services to the area with the space that already exists in partnership with the library. I mean, as you said, increasingly, I don't know that we'd be able to get this, but, mental health services are being brought to libraries and things like the tax help and all of that, which, I mean, that does seem like a fair access issue, right? And I was thinking about this, the formula for the square footage, Niles, that you raised. In creating formulas like that, sometimes there has to be a kind of minimum, right? So if you have 10 people, you're going to be sitting in a, in a closet, right? I mean, I'm exaggerating, but the point is that if you have a relatively small population, using that formula just might not provide enough space for what needs to be done in a community, even if it's a smaller community. So I could imagine even advocating for a formula that says no library can be smaller than X amount of space. And then, and none of the, I mean, no libraries do serve 10 people, right? So assuming that we're one of the smallest communities, if this is too small on that formula.
Or an adjusted formula for multifunctional spaces.
Exactly.
Yep. Because I do feel like, especially with this new director, who strikes me as really, really a great advocate, she seems like somebody who would welcome these kinds of opportunities for our libraries to partner with other community interests. And so if it was something where, a community center and a library overlap and can serve each other, benefit each other, especially in terms of the resources that they have to share in order to bring out to the community, it seems like that would be the kind of thing that would be a win.
Well, we've been on this for quite a while, and it's been a good discussion, but I would like to continue this, and as I said, if we're going to do something in this space, we have to make a case there's an equity issue that's significant to the community, and some of these things might be, we just need to figure out whether they are, so we need some more research, I think. And that's, I don't know if any of you guys want to be part of that would be great, working with Abby, obviously, but, so, does that sound like a going forward?
And I'm just thinking, it's almost like this delicate dance, advocating for resources, making sure people are utilizing the resources that already exist, and then showing that need to have even more resources,
Yes.
right? And then being able to have that data to go in and say, X amount, this is the daily usage, and this is what's happening, and we're busting at the seams, and this is an unequitable situation because our people are busting at the seams, but we don't have everything that we need to serve them.
Because it could be, listening to what you said, Abby, that part of it is, maybe, I'm not saying it is, but it could be that the programming isn't something that's really attracting a lot of people to want to go to the library. I don't know. That could be part of it.
My impression is their
pretty
programming is
active.
strong.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's good. If they had those numbers, that would help too. If they're
don't
there,
think-
going there for that.
They
I
have
don't
the
think you
numbers.
could ever look at our numbers and say we had, 25 people, which is maybe our max capacity for that room, attend an event.
Yeah.
You can't compare that to like
I would probably
50
use
people that
percentages.
attended Gaithersburg Library.
Oh, yeah.
Instead of
Yeah.
using
It has to be
numbers,
per
I would-
capita.
I would go with
Yeah, it
percentages.
can't be raw.
Gotta be
Right?
per capita.
So if we were at 85% capacity.
Yes.
You know, that kind of, because the numbers are going to vary from
Yeah.
size to size. Like if you look at Wheaton and Rockville alone, we're always going to come up short.
Sure.
But if we use percentages,
Right.
then that's going to be different.
You know, you'd mentioned that you had been in touch with Stephen Warwick.
Right.
He'd be a great person to talk to about this because
Okay.
he should have his finger on those numbers.
Okay.
He should have his finger on those programming numbers. In fact, when we have our library advisory committee meetings with each branch, the regional manager attends and
Yeah.
gives their own report.
Yeah.
And he gave a report on, area programming, and it sounded like programming was going well.
Okay, that's good.
So he might be able to answer some of those questions and give you clearer
Good.
a clearer
That'd be
sense
good.
of like whether, I haven't heard that Maggie Nightingale is busting at the seams.
Yeah.
I haven't heard that, and I haven't heard that from the Library Advisory Committee.
Okay.
That doesn't mean that like it could be better and serve the community better, especially if we found ways to, have like a community center that's,
Or that people are actually going down to other libraries, but we don't have some things here that they need on a regular
Yeah, that might
basis
be
down at
fine.
other libraries. That could be another thing
but
too.
that, I wonder if they have like interlibrary loan numbers or something that would indicate.
Yeah. So what Abby's talking about is that I'm part of the Montgomery lynching project, and they have got a new display. It's a very interesting history of the 3 lynchings in Montgomery County. They've had 2 of them, and they had them on displays in Wheaton, Kensington, all those libraries down there. They've added George Peck. Now, so they want to do it out here.
Yeah.
And I talked to HMD, and for a lot of reasons, including not having volunteer staff and that, because they need to be open for at least a couple of weeks so people can see it. It didn't work there. Probably Town Hall maybe could work. I haven't really talked to Town Hall about it, but again, you'd have to have some place where it could be open.
The library is a great place.
Yeah, that's what we're thinking about. The only issue is so far, and I had a conversation with Steve, he's very impressive, I agree with you. And he was thinking outside the box. He said, that room does get used, but maybe there's a way we could do it for, especially if we can break it down quickly and take it aside for a meeting and then put it back up. So he was thinking outside the box, so we're hoping to be able to do that. So, yeah, I think it would be good to reach out to him again. So, okay, well, thank you.
And then in terms of, just one last thought, in terms of having like a regular line of conversation, it might be worthwhile to have somebody who's, active and fair access to consider becoming a member of the Library Advisory Committee.
Okay.
It's not a big time
These
commitment.
are the quarterly.
Quarterly. Yeah.
Is that, could someone send Link the copy of the meeting schedule, and then Link can farm it out?
It's informal enough that the meetings are made, like, as we have one meeting, we're like, okay, let's try to make a meeting out.
Or just let us know, like, when the meeting's going to take place?
I'm not sure they're open.
Oh,
I'm just not, I can ask.
okay.
But, I mean, just to do what you're saying, it's if we were to go, if we were invited, one of the reps from here were invited to just come join and even just listen in, just knowing, give us enough lead time to go.
All right.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
And I'll put you in touch with the chair of the committee.
Good. Thanks for coming tonight. I appreciate it. Thanks.
All right, last thing I would say too, if they have something that they would want, if they have things happening at the library that they would want us to help promote, because I think that's one of the things too with Fair Access, we have those channels where we could help promote some of the things that are taking place at the library, to get the word out. So,
Yeah, and like some of the concerns that you're bringing up are things that haven't been talked about in that committee. So whatever's talked about in that committee makes its way to the board and the director. So
Yeah.
that's
good.
line of
Okay.
communication.
all right.
Thank you. Linda? Thanks for coming. Thanks for coming, Abby.
Yep, thanks, Ed.
Thank you.
Long walk home.
All right, Linda, this is twice in 1 week, huh?
No. I have no prepared information at all. It's all in here. So, so good evening. My name is Linda Brogowski. I'm a resident of Poolesville, and I'm here this evening because I am on the Montgomery County Commission on Aging, and you asked for some information, some insight. My understanding was, one, how to get more representation from Up County on the 80-some boards, commissions, and committees that the county has, and then what it is that we do and how we might work together to ensure equity of services in Up County. So just for background, the Commission on Aging was created in 1974. Its enabling legislation was the Older Americans Act. So we serve to advise the county executive, the county council, and the county's aging and AAA, Area Agency on Aging, which is the mechanism through which aging services are funded and delivered in most jurisdictions. So we advise them on issues of importance to older residents. We also have a unique role among all the boards and commissions in that we are allowed to, encouraged to, advocate at the local, state, and federal levels. And so that means we can lobby. I can tell you about a bill, something that just got passed in Annapolis that we worked on as a commission. So the commission, I think, is at the max 30 people. Right now, we're down. People come on and off. You serve a 3-year term, 2 consecutive 3-year terms. You're appointed by the executive. When there's an opening, they're supposed to put notices out. All of the county council people usually have a link in their newsletters. County executive has one too that says the following boards and commissions are recruiting. You go in, it's all online. You can upload a resume or a CV, and then, the process kicks in. And depending on what the commission, committee, or board is, they may get a lot of people or they may not get any people at all. I can tell you that on the current commission, I am the only person who lives north of Gaithersburg. So I don't represent the Up County technically, but I feel compelled to speak on behalf of the people that live up here. Now, you're just like, well, how do we look in terms of our older residents? We're about 20% over the age of 60 countywide, and that's pretty close to what we are up here. We have a disproportionate number of people who are white and a disproportionate number of people who are homeowners. We have very few older renters in Up County, and I'm not counting Clarksburg, I'm talking about the Ag Reserve. So we, in some ways we look like older folks across the county. We're less likely to be Black or Hispanic. We're more likely to be homeowners. We have just about some of the same characteristics. So we're not that different. And I sent you the priorities. Let me give you a little bit of background about how the commission works. We meet monthly. We have 4 standing committees plus an executive committee. The committees are health and wellness, so health issues, aging and community, public policy, and communications. And the communications committee runs what's called 50 Plus in Montgomery County. It's a cable show that's on Montgomery County Cable. And we put that on once a month. We have a show, and we have a whole group of people that plan that. Public Policy Committee works on advocacy issues, so helping to write legislation, advocate for legislation, testify on legislation, help other people write testimony, both at the state level, with the county council, and with the federal government. Health and wellness is focused on just that, keeping older people healthy, living their best lives, living with chronic disease or without, whatever it takes. So that committee produces a series of fact sheets that are available on our website, dealing with hearing loss, social isolation, what to do after losing a partner, accessing mental health services. So we develop fact sheets that are very much researched in depth and curated, and they're made available. We also have a life transitions package that helps people if they move from work to retirement and all the various changes. Aging in community is interesting. You may have heard of the Villages movement. The Villages are part and parcel of our Aging in Community Committee, helping people stay in their homes. So a lot of work on housing, affordable, accessible, and available housing for people who are older. Not like this, not like any of the housing that's being built in Poolesville right now is not what we would consider accessible housing, nor is it affordable. But that's a lot of what Aging Community does, is keeping people involved. So senior center work, rec center work comes under Aging and Community. So as I said, we have this connection. We have staff members in the Department of Health and Human Services, Aging and Disability Services, that staff our committees and help us connect to the county that way. Right now, we are having one-on-one conversations with each of the county council members about our priorities as they're reviewing the budget. Link heard my spiel on Monday about what some of our priorities are. Our top priorities have to do with housing, affordable, accessible, available housing, and also having someone whose job it is to communicate with older people in the county to tell them what services are available. And I want to tell you about two innovations that we've introduced. One is called the Ambassadors Program. These are commissioners who've been trained to go out and talk to community groups about all of the services that are available. We've developed a 100-slide deck. Takes about 2 hours to go through. Everything from soup to nuts, everything. And we've done 30-plus presentations. We are going to be doing one in Poolesville in August.
Great.
That was the earliest we could get on the seniors.
schedule.
Yes, they're so busy.
They are.
So, but we had one Friendship Heights Village sponsored a Zoom ambassadors presentation. We had 360 people sign up. So people are desperate to learn about this. The county has outreach staff, but they go to health fairs, but they don't have the connection to the senior centers that we do, or the villages, and that's who our primary targets are, target being a wrong word. The other innovation, and I'm sorry that Abby left, is that we have a library liaison program. Every commissioner is assigned to a library. This is mine. My library is Maggie Nightingale. And our job is to make sure that information is available. It's along the walls on senior programs, whether it's transportation, housing. And also, you may not know that once a month, once every 2 months, someone comes from the Aging and Disability Resource Unit, comes up here and sits for 2 hours to answer any questions that people have, help them with a question they might need to apply for Medicaid, or they don't know how to start applying for Social Security, or they're having a problem with their Social Security. You can imagine any number of things come up. So someone from their ADRU, the county's Disability Resource Unit, comes up and is here available to meet with seniors and their families. So those are two programs that we're very proud of, plus our 50 Plus in Montgomery is very informative. So what do we talk about in our almost 3-hour meetings? Well, we talk about a lot of things. This past month, Mark Elrich came and told us about what he was thinking about when he developed the operating budget proposal for FY26 and what his perspective was on services for older people. and whether or not he would consider some of the priorities that we have. Clearly, one of the things that the county is facing is a tsunami. It's like a perfect storm of financial stressors. The federal government going nuts, the state government looking at huge deficits never seen before in my lifetime, and then lots and lots of people losing their jobs. Montgomery County, the 6th congressional district, the U.S. congressional district, one of the hardest hit in the whole country. That's Jamie Raskin's. Up here, a little bit less so because we include Western Maryland, which doesn't have as many federal employees. So to fund all the things that we want to do, all the things that Fair Access wants to do, will require a 3.5% property tax increase. And big increases in other kinds of fees. I talked about this on Monday night, the solid waste management fees and the water fees, not for Poolesville, but for other parts of the county that are on WSSC water. So we say, that's fine, we pay taxes, we should get those services. We pay county taxes, why don't we have a senior center? Why is this
And you
still
guarantee that we will
a
get the
services desert?
Yeah.
Why do we not have transportation that is in the least bit useful and helpful? Why do we have to really pinch fingers to get anything out of the county? I was here on Monday, and I heard the police officer say, yeah, we'll come up when we can, but if there's something that's going on down county and an officer's involved, sorry. So Poolesville could be on fire, sorry. So I recognize that this is this big gap. And how do you fill it? Well, I think I've talked about, anybody can come to a Commission on Aging meeting. Our meetings are public. You can get on the website and you can contact the Office Aging and Disability Services and say, I want to be put on the mailing list for the Commission on Aging or the Commission on anything, veterans. We don't have any up-county people on the Veterans Commission. We don't have any up-county people on the Intellectual and Developmental Disabilities Commission. We don't have any up-county people on the Commission on Women. There's lots of ways. All it takes is volunteers. Now, don't be like me and get talked into being the co-chair. So that's just a suggestion. But I think that if you want to come to the Commission on Aging meeting, and people who are now commissioners started out as just curious, they were aging curious, I guess is the way to put it. Like, what's going on here? I'm getting old, maybe I should pay attention. And they ended up becoming our most recent chair was a guy who just started listening in and volunteering for projects. And pretty soon he was selected and became chair. So I think finding people in the community who have the interest and political will to insert themselves into some of these more robust commissions. Agricultural Advisory Commission, they're not all farmers. They're not all producers. There can be, and you're not necessarily representing Poolesville or the communities around Poolesville, but you're bringing the voice of Up County.
Yeah.
They don't even understand what it's like to be up here. It's like, oh, I love Poolesville. I love riding my bike around Poolesville. I love coming to locals. Like we were Disney World. And, they come and they spend the day and then they go home. And it's like, or Brigadoon, they think we just pop up on a Saturday morning so that they can ride their bike here. They don't realize this is a working community, and it's a community that's working without a lot of things that other communities take for granted. So that's my spiel. What else can I tell you about?
So one thing we have done, Linda, and that's why Nancy talked to you, is that we have been focusing on trying to get people on the advisory committees out here. So we follow it very closely. We do put stuff up on Facebook and urge people to sign up for these. Sometimes I send emails to some people that we think might be particularly interested. And one of the ones that's coming up now that we just heard about is the Up County Advisory Board, which is going to have 2 openings in May. And so we're going to really focus on that and try to get at least those 2, at least one of them, from our area. But we hear you, and we know that's important. And if there's anything else we can do to reach out to people, we will.
If somebody has said that they're interested, have them go to a meeting, get their name out in front of the existing members, because those are the members that will be reviewing the applications. The county executive doesn't make that decision. All of the things go into a batch.
Yeah.
And get to, then they're parceled out to the commissions that have openings, a nominating committee or a review committee is formed. Those people review it. The chances are better if the people who are reviewing have heard your name before and
That's what
seen your
Ruben
face
told
on
me
Zoom.
too. That's right. Yeah.
Like, oh, she was interested. Yeah, let's get her. I liked her.
One of the, I forgot which one it was, Nancy, one of the commissions recently on Facebook, we did get a couple of hits. And I reached out to the woman and talked to her, and it's really, and you know this because that's why in volunteer groups, 98% of the work is done by 2% of the people. Yeah, she was just really skittish about, do I really want to do it, and how much time is it? And I said, well, go, that's what I told her. I said, go see and get an experience with it and see it yourself. But I don't know if she did or not, but that's what you're facing is people are just kind of, that's a lot of time, and I've just retired, and all these things come into it. But you're right, it's hard.
Well, just a little bit of background. I'm a social worker, a geriatric social worker by training.
Yeah,
And so working on behalf of older and disabled adults has been my life's work.
yeah,
And so this for me was, I started out my first job out of college was in an area agency on aging. So I've come full circle to work in this field again.
One idea, Linda, that just came to me and I was thinking about when you were talking about affordable housing. So we have a group out here called Helping Hands, which helps people rebuild their houses.
Renovate, yep.
But we not only do it, we have an April 26th is coming up, and we've got a house already chosen and all that. And most of the time, though, that I've been involved with this, and I've been involved with it for almost 30 years, we've almost never had an older person. It's always a person who's younger, has financial issues and problems, and usually has a couple of kids. So that may be one thing, is trying to target more, if we can, older people to, you have to make an application to rebuild Montgomery to have your house fixed. But one way to help them age in place is to fix the houses they're in, and many older people do have a house. It's not that they don't have one, it's just falling apart in many cases.
I was, when I worked in Baltimore, I was, we used to call it Christmas in July, before it was rebuilding.
Right,
Baltimore.
Christmas in April it used to be
Christmas in
called.
April, rather, Christmas
Yeah.
in July, Christmas in April. And so the company I worked for had,
Yeah,
and I was a house captain many, many times.
right,
We intentionally focused on older homeowners.
yeah.
We never took anybody who was under 60.
Yeah, well, we have done that, but the problem is we've never gotten most of them to sign up. I know a person in my church is 68. I've repeated, and they've got to sign up. They've got to actually, and I actually helped her fill the application out. She still didn't send it in. So, but what I was thinking about is maybe having at your meeting, the next meeting you have Rebuild Montgomery come and have them make a presentation and see if you can develop a better connection to them.
So the county has 2 programs you may not know about. One is called Design for Life.
Design for Life. Okay.
Design for Life, and the other is called HARP. And they're both about home renovations, specifically for older people of modest or low income. So they're currently both under review because they're not, Design for Life is more of a permitting program.
Oh,
And HARP is actually, they come in and they help with ramps and shower rails and,
Accessibility.
you know, that.
Bars
kind
in the
of stuff.
bathroom and things like that.
Yes, but look into Design for Life and HARP. I love rebuilding the program, just like Habitat, but scaling-wise, its footprint is very small
Yeah.
relative to what
Oh, yeah.
has
We
to
only-
be
I think
sort
we
of
have 59
imposed-
projects this.
imposed on
Yeah.
on developers.
But the other thing we've been doing, because ours group is unique, we don't just do it on April 26th. So in between, so Katie a lot of times will contact me and say, hey, there's somebody that, and it's not a lot of times a huge repair. It's like the kitchen sink is not working, or I can't get my water in and we can do this kind of repair. So all year long, we're doing that. So that's another thing we could do. And it can't be a major thing, but we could do fixes like that, fix a stair that's fallen apart, going into the house. We've done that too. We put ramps on houses recently. So keep that in mind too. We could probably help with that.
So the Aging and Community Committee, last year, we have a public forum every May. I should go back and say this. We have a public forum every May. We invite practitioners, citizens, anybody. We serve lunch.
In May?
Usually in May.
Okay.
May 21st this year will be on caregiving, revaluing caregiving.
Where does the forum take place?
It's going to be at Borough Park this year, from 9 to 3. It's free. It's an Eventbrite sign up. I can send the link.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Anybody can come. And it's a curated day of experts and community members sharing ideas. Caregiving is a huge issue for us, for all of us, especially those of us in the sandwich generation, but also because there's simply not enough direct care workers
Right.
to support the people who want to stay at home or the people who end up in assisted living or nursing homes. There's just not enough qualified people going into that. So it's a workforce issue, it's a quality of life issue. So May 21st from 9 to 3 at Borough Park. But last year's forum was on housing, affordable housing. We've done a lot of advocacy on the affordable housing strategies report that came out from planning, Montgomery Planning.
I'm really curious what you guys are thinking of the current legislation proposals.
Well, more work, more housing now is silent on housing for older people
Right.
or people with disabilities. It's silent. It doesn't say a word. And the sponsors will tell you that, Marilyn, and
Yeah, it's
the other
affordability.
sponsors will say, yes, yes, but we had that tax credit, that expanded tax credit. It's like, okay, yes, so that will help maybe 100 more people. Think about changing the way you think about housing. And I would ask the people who run planning in Poolesville to think about that. Instead of building townhouses next to CVS, to build a low-rise garden apartment elevator building for older people. Because today, if you are old in Poolesville and you can't live in your split-level or three-story house anymore, there is no place for you to go and stay in Poolesville. I see it all around me.
The
People
challenge, Linda, though,
they're
is that
stuck
it needs
in
to
their
be
house.
subsidized. And the town's budget,
Have the funds like.
compared to the county,
No, they not necessarily subsidize housing.
well, the tax credit is a subsidy.
It could be at market rate. It just needs to be accessible.
And the
They are.
the like,
Yeah, but who wants
Master
to
bedroom
spend
on floor.
$800,000?
I guess that's market rate, so
Yeah.
I guess that's what I.
Yeah, but an apartment at market rate, like a condo at market rate.
Yeah, we don't have any
Rent it.
apartments in Poolesville.
There's,
We have a few, but they're there's only 3 or 4. There's one over there where the PT is.
right,
2 of them up there. There's one over here where the Oddfellows is. I've worked on
Yes.
the apartment and fixed it. There's not many, you're right. We did have, when I was a commissioner, and we spent 6 months on it, and unfortunately, it just fell apart because they couldn't get the financing. But Habitat for Humanity, we went out and we actually recruited them to come out here and where the townhouses are, where next to the elementary school, to get them to build something there. And we were this close, and they just couldn't get the financing. So we would have had it. The market demand issue is tough. If you can't get something that you can somehow subsidize that builder to do, and that's what they do in the county. I mean,
Well, and yes, so
all the
they-
time.
They do have some programs that will help,
Yeah, they do.
to get moderately priced dwelling units,
Yeah.
AKA affordable. That usually ends up being a townhouse, a tripod, a quad.
Usually it's just
Quad
it's a
pod,
small
whatever.
percentage of the larger build.
Right.
Right,
When they built King Farm, they had a small percent, usually it's about 10% of the whole layout. And so when you look at it, it's from a developer's perspective, and I'm not a developer, I'm an educator, but with the developer piece, do you have enough where you can stretch out many so that 10%, you're still gaining the profit that you're looking for?
yes, and there are people that are doing that. And one of the ways that they're doing it is they're using the ground floor as public space. For example, and there's a new thing in Montgomery County since last year where non-for-profits and religious organizations can get a break on permitting, planning, development costs if they build moderately priced dwelling units on their land. So any place that's got some land, like Our Lady of Presentation, or they could build on that land apartments, and they're doing that in other parts of the county, down county. So they have like storefronts on the ground floor and then apartments above. Now, not everybody wants to live in an apartment, I get that. But there are mechanisms to do this.
Well, this has been really good. I do think, though, that it sounds like the May meeting would be good to go to, although I don't know if we can talk about issues beyond just caregiving. That's the
Well,
topic?
come to any commission meeting.
Okay, so we could do that too
So
as an
in
alternative.
April, we're having the mayors of Rockville, Gaithersburg, and Tacoma Park
Oh, good.
Oh, yeah.
coming to our May meeting, our April meeting, rather, on April 24th, to talk about how, because they're jurisdictions like we are, but they also have services to older people.
Right.
Gaithersburg has the Gaither Center. I've actually gone to programming there. They all have some programming available, but they also want to be able to access services that the county has to offer.
Right.
How can we all work together? So
Right.
it's going to be a trialogue, three mayors. It's like the three tenors. And then, we talk about what's going on in the committees. You can come and raise it. You can say, I'm just curious, how does this work? Can you help me find out? And
What time is that meeting?
the commission meetings always start at 9:30. It's the fourth Thursday of the month.
4:30, you said?
9:30.
9:30.
The morning.
In the morning, okay.
These are retired folks mostly serving on this commission.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. They, you
I was like,
say they're having a meeting at 7:00 and they're like, 7:00 in the morning I could do, 7:00 at night, no. Okay, so April is the three mayors. Our May meeting will be the public forum in lieu of that.
Okay.
I don't know that we've got our agenda yet for June, but we'll start with, that's when we start researching our priorities for fiscal '27.
Okay.
Because by that time, the fiscal '26 budget will be in place,
Yeah.
and we'll know what we didn't get. I just want to brag a little bit about our advocacy efforts. And it doesn't affect us here necessarily, because we don't have any nursing homes or assisted living facilities. But the state of Maryland has a legal responsibility for inspecting nursing homes, at least once every 12 to 15 months. It's federal law, it's state law. And they weren't doing it. They had a memorandum of understanding with the county to do those inspections in their stead, and there was cost sharing that went on. And then abruptly, the state pulled back in 2021 and said, no, we're not going to do that anymore. And then they sort of forgot how to do nursing home inspections. And then the pandemic hit. So for the last 4 years, we have tried to convince the state that we want to do the work. We're prepared to do the work. Give us the authority to do the work. And the state fought us at every turn, State Department of Health. This year, in the Budget Reconciliation Act, is language that requires the state, if the county asks for it, to delegate the authority for us to be able to do nursing home inspections,
That's good.
and the state has to pay for half of
Commission
it.
would be able to do.
The commission isn't. The commission was the advocate for it.
Okay.
Oh.
Then becomes the Department of Health's responsibility.
HHS,
Okay.
okay.
So if the state's not doing it, then the county could do it.
Right, the county can say, state, you're
You
not
can go
doing
from
the-
advocate to watchdog.
Right, right. So,
That's wonderful. Congratulations.
so that's just something that you can, pick an issue that you're passionate about.
Right.
And I would say to the person who was like, I'm not sure about how much time, you're right. There are some commissioners, they come to the meetings, they never say a word, they never volunteer, they don't come to the committee meetings. However, they're stealth commissioners. I get that. But most of the people that are on our commission are lifelong advocates for older people and are deeply, deeply committed to improving the quality of life of older people or veterans or people with developmental disabilities. Pick your issue. Animal control, anything. But to get your face in front of the existing commissioners or committee members, become a familiar presence at the meetings, when an opening occurs, apply for it, volunteer if you can. That's one of the benefits of not being on the commission is nobody expects you to show up. So that when you do, it's a very big deal, and they're like, yay, we're so glad you're here.
Well, thank you.
Any other questions?
I'm sure we have
Appreciate it.
many more, but I think in the
Yeah.
interest of time,
Okay,
But thank you.
going.
all right.
But I think you've given us a lot to think about and follow up with you on.
Yeah, hey, thank you very much.
So thank you
Thank
so
you.
much, Linda. I appreciate it. And for all of your volunteering and all the different committees that you're on.
I had to get special dispensation to do DAFIG too.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Normally you're not.
On one commission at a time.
Ah, well, you just happen to live in a special area where there are few volunteers and few people to fill all the volunteer spots for all of the
We
area.
have enough people, we just need to light a fire under.
Yeah, we just got to get them interested, you're
Yeah.
right.
Thanks for making the connection. Nice to meet you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Linda.
Thanks. That's good. I just, I don't want to keep you guys too much longer. Ed, is there anything on the high school playing fields you want to let us know about in terms of an update?
Sure, just update for the high school fields. So we had a meeting on, let's see here, I guess I'll say about 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
The 26th. We went out on the 26th, and we, group of us from Fair Access, you had the principal, the athletic director over at Poolesville High School. You had a couple of folks from central office, one from construction, one from athletics. And then you had Jim joined us as a commissioner. And then we had Link and myself. And then you had the boosters representative, Alan Hobbs. And we wanted to go out and really ask the question on site, why is it that Poolesville is not getting the athletic facilities that other schools get when they do modernizations or a new building? And so there will be more meetings to come, but on that day, we went through, did a walkthrough to look at the fields, both the practice fields and the main athletic field. And so we'll continue to have more discussions where we could get everybody involved to really identify what are those barriers, and then talk about, okay, so what do we do to overcome those barriers? Because it's hard to just live with is not happening or it can't happen. So that's where we are. We've started that preliminary discussion, and then we'll keep pushing forward to pull together and see what can be done.
And I will say Jeff Sullivan, the athletic director there from the MCPS, was very open and willing to talk about ideas, kind of outside the box ideas. And so, I mean, I can't guarantee anything, but I thought the conversation was a lot better than I was expecting, honestly. So Alan and Ed have done a good job of making the inequity case, I think, already. And he said very bluntly that these fields should have been done, and they weren't. So the question is, how do we go forward? And of course, they also said the obvious, which the budget is tight. But we know that. So
And our strategy is, while we know it's tedious, but this is how you get things done. You got to keep moving, and you got to keep pushing things to move in the right direction. You can't just let it go and give up. So it's a long process, but this is where we are.
that's great. Thanks for you and Alan for putting that together too. On the budget, WUMCO testified, I testified, and so did Maria. I think all of them went well, and we did the best we could. I don't think, talking to Marilyn afterwards, that we're going to have a chance this year to get the pool bubble in the budget, but she said that we ought to be pushing hard next year because the CIP is a 2-year budget. So this year's mostly amendments, not new projects. She said next year will be new projects, so we ought to do the community center and pool bubble full-time real hard next year and try to get those done in that next fiscal year budget. So that's the objective. But we're always there, we're always present, and that's always helpful. So in that vein too, there's a budget listening session at the Blackrock Center on May 1st. So I think we ought to try to get some community members there. I'm going to reach out to the swim team again and see if I can get them to appear with signs. That would be nice. It's on the CIP, but they never tell you can't ask a question on the operating budget. So, but we do have those two items, so we certainly can show up for that. I think it's 7 o'clock, but I'll send you the time. And it's at the Blackrock Center. Laura, did you want to quickly update us? I sent the committee the draft of the run of shows, so to speak, or the script right now that we've got for the video. Is there anything else we need to do? And what's your time frame about the video?
Yeah, if anybody wants to weigh in, has any comments or feedback on the draft script, that would be great. As soon as possible, because as soon as we hear back from you, we can start on the production of the actual editing. So yeah, just an encouragement to take a look if you have an interest. If not, I think it's in good shape. So yeah, please just take a look and offer feedback as soon as possible. And then hopefully we can turn a draft, depending on when we get feedback, in approximately a week. And, but I think this time we definitely want your input going in, because then it'll save us time on the back end with edits. So take a look again if you have a moment, and offer your feedback. Thank you.
Why don't we all try to get feedback to Laura then by the end of this weekend?
Either, yeah, there or Monday at the
You
latest.
guys can have Monday, like this whole next week, to do the revisions.
That'd be great.
Does that sound good?
And we may not have an exact quote so if there's something you think we need to add, I'm not sure we'll have time to do another interview, but we certainly can try to see what we got on the existing interviews.
Yeah.
In that regard, I did want to mention that I did reach out to Joyce Bailey. She's a retired teacher now at the high school, but she was one of the original founders of the Global Ecology Studies program, and she was real enthusiastic about making some video comments, but unfortunately her brother got sick, so she couldn't do it. But her comments would have been along the lines of, if it wasn't for the fact that our community and the teachers started the Global Ecology program, we would have had a real hard time keeping our school because there was constant pressure because it was so small, and that obviously changed the dynamics and led to the magnet programs. I've also reached out, because, and Mark Crothers helped me with this, to Dina Levine, who was a former principal before Mark, and she was constantly quoted as saying that our school is not being treated the way it should be, so she would be good too, but so far she hasn't gotten back to me. But hopefully by the time of our breakfast, we'll have both Joyce and Dina as interviewers too, which will help a lot in terms of making the depth of the video a lot better. So we'll work on that too.
Okay.
There are two openings on the UCAB that we found out about. Nancy knew about it, knows about it too. So we'll really try hard to get at least one of those. We can't guarantee both of them, but at least one of those would be a member from our area. And Ruben and Dale Tibbetts both know that and they agree that we should have a representative on there. So we're going to try to work hard to get somebody to step
Yeah.
up. So, and that's going to be in May. We'll find out.
I don't know, we couldn't pull this together that quickly, but I wonder if it would be helpful at some point to have sort of like a volunteer open house where it was, let us tell you about all the different types of volunteer opportunities there are in this area, especially the ones for like government. I think people are more familiar with like, PTA or like more civic, social groups, but more of like a civic volunteer. And then we could invite those who are currently serving to like answer questions and be kind of on a panel, and then
Good idea.
maybe people who are a little tentative, that could be an entry point for them to learn more about what it's like.
So maybe at the June meeting?
Yeah, I don't know when, but
I mean, I think there are a lot of people who would like to volunteer and just don't know
Yeah.
where to start.
Yeah, not aware.
And it's also true
lead
that,
up time to like tell people about it.
it's also true that if you don't actually approach people directly, a lot
Yeah,
of times
most
people
will
don't.
just offer.
And I understand that. I mean, you can say, I sent a note to you. Would you be interested in doing it? When you actually talk to them,
Yeah.
it changes things.
Well, and the other problem with that, I mean, I think probably for this, that is what we have to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
is
there's such short
caps-
notice.
It's short notice, and we want to make sure somebody's there. We probably need to think about people to approach.
When
But
it-
in general, you're always going to end up with the same people when you do that. So, figuring out ways to kind of
Yeah, I
broaden
would
beyond
like
our
to-
networks is
Right.
a good idea.
Well, I'm actually thinking of sharing the information with some of the people who we know who have interviewed for volunteer
You got
positions.
9, don't you, on the Parks Board?
Yeah, well, we also had other people,
We had to turn away because you could, we might have had like 9 or 10
With different-
applicants, but we
yeah.
could only take one.
That might be a good start.
but I'm just thinking of some of the other committees for the town.
Yeah.
Because I got a person whose name comes into mind right now. I just wrote her name down. Hey, she'd be a great person to.
That's a
look
good
into
idea.
That's a
this.
good way to start.
Yeah, I think it is.
Maybe we could get that list from Niles.
Yeah.
Niles, do you have a list of folks who have applied in the past, but who we,
For the different
Yeah.
commission, different
reasons.
committees that we have.
Yeah, what I would say is since the commissioners still have to vote on the Parks Board people, we wait a little bit to so that we inform people who gets on and all
Right.
that fun stuff.
We-
But we can certainly provide all the information.
Well, now, it's just a quick question though. When is for the UCAB, when is that closed?
deadline to submit?
I don't know yet. Ruben,
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I don't
you
think
tell
it's-
me when
it's not up
it has to be announced first, so I don't know.
Yeah.
It hasn't been.
Oh, it'll be announced in May.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
right.
We have time, we could wait.
All right,
Yeah.
that's fine.
But the turnaround
Yeah.
is sometimes short for these.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
usually 3 weeks or something like that. It's not very long.
I think for our own purposes, though, just to go to the general thing, we have had better responses in the last, I'd say, 18 months to our own appointments than previously. So we had 10 people total for the Parks Board. We had 10 people who applied for the working group, for the Trails working group, and things like that. So we've gotten pretty good
lot of people.
responses
I was
on
actually,
that end.
I was actually thinking about some of the candidates who applied for the planning commission, because when I think about the UCAB, I
Yep.
think planning commission might be more aligned, right,
Yeah.
with that. Whereas park, you might have a focused interest in parks, but someone who was interested in the planning commission, they might have an interest in the Up County Advisory Board.
Yeah,
All right.
but we had both. We had one person who ended up on the Trails Working Group who had applied for the Planning Commission. So,
Yeah. All right. Yeah. So that'd be great if we could. So just to make sure I'm not doing something we're not supposed to do, can we share that with Link, or do you have to
Yeah,
share it with the commissioners? Or
yeah. Well, let's talk. My thought is one. Let me talk to Wade in the morning about
Okay.
it as we meet on Friday always. And then two, I think it's worth bringing it up to the commissioners that this is what we want to do.
Okay.
Just so that they're aware in case there's any. I can't see anything right now with that being an issue, but I think that makes the most amount of sense.
Yeah.
Just so that everybody's aligned with what we're doing.
I mean, just to be clear though, Niles, we would not be proposing these people. All we're going to do is hopefully invite them to a meeting to
Right.
discuss with them. You volunteered before, maybe you'd want to volunteer for
Right, we
something
just
like
want to
this.
share opportunities in the county with them. We want to make them aware. We're not recommending
Right.
them.
Yeah, right.
Exactly, and that's where we've told them before, when people who don't get picked, we tell them there might be other opportunities for you to volunteer for the town. Usually that's our stated preference, but this might be another way of sort of extending out, hey, you're doing a service to the town by volunteering on this. So you're not,
Right.
that's just a way of sort of phrasing it.
No, you're right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just sharing information,
Okay.
sharing public information.
Yeah.
Okay.
Those are good ideas. Actually, in that regard, Sarah, the other thing we could do that might actually be icing the cake, because Marilyn has had this as a major priority, maybe invite her to that meeting so she can reinforce how important it is as a council member to have people from up here on these committees. So that's another argument for waiting till June, and maybe we can get her, because the budget will be over then, and she may have more time to do it. Okay. Good, that's great, great ideas. Also, just on the UCAB, I think I sent you a note. Derek has done good work with Lynn, and Lynn and I met with Derek about 3 or 4 weeks ago, and she's invited me to make a presentation of the UCAB. I sent you guys some slides. I think we had to educate them. I know these folks are somewhere in North Potomac, but a lot of them don't really have a clue what our area is. So I put together some
on the
slides.
14th?
Yeah, 14th, and it's at 7 o'clock.
For which one?
The UCAB, they have a meeting on the 14th, and they've asked us to present about fair access and our priorities. And I thought it'd be good to educate them too, because a lot of them, except for a couple of them,
14th.
yeah,
April 14th.
April 14th.
It's next Monday.
Yeah, next Monday. It's a Zoom too, so it's not in
Are you
person.
ready to speak to us, or are you here just to kind of learn and listen? Okay. Amy's a good sport.
I hope you had dinner before you came.
I think maybe like another 10 minutes?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, we'll be done in a couple of times. And you can leave anytime you want to. You don't have to stay at the restaurant.
Or you can stay too.
You're not going to upset us.
They are not
You are
usually
welcome.
this long. They're usually about an hour.
All right, so we got,
The slides I put together that I sent to you, I actually worked with Caroline McCarthy on for the planning department in Montgomery County. So those are numbers that she helped put together,
Nice.
which are really, I think, educational for those folks. So,
like, what time is that meeting on April 4th?
7 o'clock. And I'll send you the
PM
link.
or AM?
What?
PM, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, exactly. I'll send you the link when Lynn sends it to me.
All right.
And then just to finalize, the proposed Farmers Appreciation Day, last night, the Poolesville Day Committee had a meeting. So we've been talking, so Sarah's been talking about this, Jim has been talking about it, Alex Markoff has also been involved, Bob Sissel
All right.
from MAP has been involved. All of them think it's a good idea. The only question really is timing, because farmers have such busy schedules. In the winter is the best time
Or
to do
is it
something.
part of Poolesville Day? Like
That's what we're
I've
trying to
thought
do.
about that too.
It's just a timing issue, whether they're going to be so busy that can't work. But so far, they seem to be willing to do it. And then I guess the Poolesville Day Committee, it looks like they're not going to have as big an EV show. It might be a lot smaller.
Yeah.
Because of that, we may be able to do it at that end of town where the Jameson area is. And so have equipment up there, have the farm animals up there, and they'll be able to get their user because it's at that end of town, so they can bring maybe a couple of their, their tractors and things up there.
James,
So
let us use some of
people
that
can see it. Yeah, well, they can actually touch it and feel it. And we're also trying to get the Maryland Agricultural Education Foundation, they have an educational, it's basically a
Like a
museum
booth
on
they can
wheels.
come up with.
It's
Okay,
big,
perfect.
it's really big.
Nice.
30 feet long, it's an interactive thing, so we're going to try to get that too. So
Perfect.
that's kind of coming together. And the
We'll
other,
make it as easy for our farmers as possible.
Yeah.
So if there's already an existing.
right. And the other thing we're trying to do is to maybe have a small segment of our meeting on Poolesville Day that would actually be the celebrating the farmers part. So that's education, that's exposing them
Yep.
to the farming stuff, and then having a celebration part at the Poolesville Day breakfast.
Would love that.
So that's what we're thinking about.
Yep.
More to come, but that's,
Were you going to say something about the pool bubble and community center? You started a discussion with Marilyn.
oh, yeah. Well, I mentioned it quickly, but she said that she went with us on the pool bubble tour. And so she's now seen that. Her staff people saw the one down at Great Mills. Her only comment after looking at all that, and after I testified, she came up to me and said, all your testimony is great, but the budget is just not going to be possible to do it.
Yeah, you said keep pushing for.
So put it next year in the fiscal and make it a full court press, and I will be behind you. So that's the objective. So it won't be this year.
So it would be in like the 2027.
Yeah, the next fiscal year. But that's a new CIP, and that's why she's suggesting that, and I get it. It's hard lift to put new stuff in.
Especially in this.
And how
Second
much
year.
are we asking for?
For the pool bubble, it's about $3.5 million. I'll send you we put together a pretty good set of numbers based on Robin from the Parks and Recs has given us some good background on how much it costs to operate a pool, how much it costs year-round. And then we've had 3 contracts we've gotten from suppliers of bubble equipment, so we know how much it costs to modify
Yeah.
and also how much the bubble equipment itself costs.
Okay.
So it's about $3.5 million. That's operating and capital, both, for the first year.
Did we ever follow up with some accessibility and disability groups to combine our efforts, given that this would make this pool accessible year-round, and we have some equipment there that would, so that if people were doing physical therapy with disabilities, they'd be able to use this one here.
I did not. I followed up with the swim team, but I did not follow up with, so if somebody wants to take that on, or if you got ideas on how to do it.
Anybody know? Anybody else kind of?
You know, I do know the person who, in the county, there's a
Maybe we talked to
department.
Linda. Didn't she just say that she knows the people
Yeah.
on the disability? So maybe ask Linda if she can connect us
Yeah.
with someone from the committee on disability and
I
accessibility.
would include seniors with this push for the pool.
Yes,
bubble also.
absolutely. And seniors, and maybe if we get the Commission on Aging behind this as well, because it opens up opportunities for our seniors up here that don't have access to a pool.
I didn't have the seniors with Linda and the commission, but I did have Maria, and she definitely did.
With the pool?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's what I was
She
thinking.
definitely raised it in her testimony, and that's the reason, because of rehab and that kind
Yeah.
of thing for
Yeah.
seniors. And activity during the winter.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I wonder also if there might be funding, either federal or state funding, to make areas like that accessible.
No, I don't know, that's a good point.
Yeah, I don't know either.
Is the existing pool, I think it is, there's no steps.
I don't
or
know,
anything, right?
Niles, is that something that you would be able to look into?
I don't think there are.
I mean, I'm not sure there,
Get in.
like, we can always look. You know, that's not really an issue of seeing what, you mean in terms of the funding part of it? Or
Yeah, just
everything? Yeah.
are there grant opportunities that are
There-
related to accessibility?
There probably are. The question becomes,
You want to say?
it's a county facility and it becomes that question. Like some of them are available, like it would be trying to get
That's a good
the county to do it. You know what I mean?
Oh, because we
So-
wouldn't be able to apply as a town, it would have
Correct.
to be the county.
Right, so that's one of those things where it might be part of some kind of memorandum of understanding or something like that we do about
Yeah,
the pool bubble, but it's not like we could apply for it because it's not our facility
Got
in
it,
that
got it.
case.
yeah, okay.
Mhm.
It might just give us a little bit more leverage, though, to be like, hey,
You can partner
also,
with this.
yeah,
Mhm.
partner with us as a way to save money.
Yeah.
All right, awesome, thank you.
Mhm.
I think that's it.
That's it. Appreciate it. Anybody want to make a motion to,
A motion that we adjourn.
Second?
all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Thank you, Laura.
you,
Thank you, Niles.
Yep, you're
Thank you,
welcome.
Laura.
See you.
Hang in there, Laura. You too, Niles.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming, Kate. So is it 10:30? Let's say 10:30. Is that okay?
Okay, yeah.